Okay, Capricorns, I actually didn't have enough time to get all my readings done yesterday. So, new day. I'm a bit of a mess this morning. I forgot so many things. I forgot, the biggest one I forgot was my glasses. I can still see. It just, my eyes work 3 times as hard to focus. So, they end up tired at the end of the day when I forget my glasses. Okay. So, if you didn't catch the intros and the updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the 4th of July, hence the shirt. If you did catch the intros and updates, I was speaking about 4th of July as if it's tomorrow. Well, it's the next day, so today is the 4th of July, and with the parade happening out front, we are going to be out there with a table doing some tea samples. Sorry. So yeah, if you're local, stop by, maybe taste some tea. And without further ado, let's jump in. I will explain the positions as I go. So the first one is the Tyrant. This is the external or internal force that has kept you small or silent. Could either be a system, a belief, a person, a fear that's acted as a ruler over you. So who is the Tyrant in Capricorn's life today? Who or what is the Tyrant? Okay, so the first one we got was the Ten of Swords, which, I mean, it's like it's depicted, like 10 swords stabbing in that guy's back. I think this might be the first reading that has a person as a tyrant. Might have gotten stabbed in the back. Yes, sorry, I keep getting interrupted. But yes, I think that this might be a person who stabbed you in the back. But usually the Ten of Swords is like the end of that pain. The end of the suffering and the conflict. Let's pull one more. Tell me about the Ten of Swords. That's way too many. Just one more on the Ten of Swords. Okay, 2. I can take that. Interesting. The Empress and the Page of Swords. The Empress and the Page of Swords. So the Empress is the divine feminine. She brings life into the world. And then the Page of Swords, the pages are like, they're the messengers, but they're also like innocents. They are not the start of the suit, but they're still new to their journey. They have not graduated to the Knight yet. And with Swords being communication and the mind, and the Ten of Swords with that, it's almost like, because like with the Empress bringing, you know, the intangible into the tangible, it's almost like you've had this pain, but you're staying silent on it. And the Page of Swords is speaking that truth, speaking that experience. So it's either like it's a person or situation that caused a lot of pain, and it's not that it's keeping you silent, but I don't know if like you're afraid to speak on it or just haven't. The second one is the spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? Seven of Cups. You want it all. The Seven of Cups is like an overwhelming amount of options and choices. It can speak to like dreams and fantasy, like unrealistic dreams. This might be your ability to dream big, because it's the spark, it's the soul's whisper, the thing too sacred to be abandoned. So your ability to dream big it's too sacred to be abandoned. Maybe this, you know, this Ten of Swords and the Empress and the Page of Swords, it could be a failed dream. Maybe. The third one is the Uprising. What action must you take to claim your personal freedom? And I got the Chariot, which the Chariot, it does speak about movement, but it's movement in a way that is, how do I say this? You are harnessing the forces with your power of will and creating that movement, creating that momentum. So it might be the action needing to be taken is to tap into your personal power and your power of will. But I think I'm going to pull one more on that because it's very internal. It's not a concrete action. To be fair, a lot of the tarot cards are internal. But that, or because like she's shining this light, she's got like this saber or staff. It's hard to see it, but she is shining that light, and these horses are actually going in two different directions, but she's shining this light to kind of pull them together and drive them in one direction. So it might be to, you know, the action might be to find a direction, find a common like drive, and then faith. Trust the process. Trust that you have what it takes to drive those forces in a common direction. And then the fourth one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? What is the fallout in Capricorn's life? The world. This might be releasing an old chapter. Because the world is the ending of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. It's that shift that happens. That kind of in-between state of moving on from what was, but it's the period of time before stepping into the new. So it might be an old chapter. Maybe if you resonate with the failed dream, it might be putting that behind you and letting go of that, releasing that. Create the movement. And then the fifth one is the new world. What becomes possible when you live as your whole free self? We got strength. Honestly, I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. It's inner strength, it's inner bravery, it's inner sovereignty. Because like there's a lot of feline energy in this card with the lion, and can't tell if that's a cheetah or a leopard. Either way, there's a cheetah or a leopard, and then there's a tiger. So a lot of feline energy. And with lions specifically, they are known for being the king of the jungle. And yeah, so it really speaks towards this sovereignty. But it's very internal. I kind of want one more, because I want to know how this sovereignty relates to your dream. Because like I said, it almost seems like there's like either a failed dream, or maybe someone stabbed you in the back and held you back from a dream, or told you to stop dreaming. But once you let go of that old chapter, and you have the faith, and you create movement and direction through your own power of will, that creates that inner sovereignty, that inner the inner ruler, inner monarchy. You know, because the monarchy rule and lead, you know, everything really. You know, they make the laws. They, you know, especially, you know, royalty, they do whatever they want. And they are very unapologetic for it. So then the Emperor, which can speak towards entrepreneurship. So if you're dreaming big, that could be an area that you are dreaming big in, is entrepreneurship. But the Emperor really speaks towards like authority, your relationship to authority. which does kind of bring it back to, you know, this inner sovereignty. Very nice, very nice. Okay, we're going to get that cleansed and get an animal on the table for you. Okay, what advice do you have for Capricorn regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Capricorn regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Capricorn regarding this spread? And Spirit, time to collaborate. So I think what maybe might be happening is creating that inner sovereignty. If it was somebody who stabbed you in the back and stopped a dream from happening or told you to stop dreaming, you might have created a little bit of fear around working with others. Maybe like fearing that that's going to happen again, that you just can't work with others because they try to control your dreams too much. But with Ant Spirit, time to collaborate coming out, I almost see that as, you know, especially with the world, this isn't a brand new chapter. It's not the same. You can trust it now. Trust the process. You can trust it now. Very nice. Okay. Well, Capricorns, I hope that was either clarifying or confirmation for you. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow and reach more people. Okay, so okay, Leos are up. How are my fellow Leos? How are you? We'll see how much of this comes out for me too. Okay, so if you missed the intros and updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called the Dreamer's Rebellion Spread, and I will explain the positions as I go. So the Tyrant is what external or internal force has kept you small or silent. This could be a system, a person, a belief, a fear, some sort of aspect that is acted as a ruler over you. Okay. Who or what is the tyrant in Leo's life? Queen of Swords. She is very sharp-witted, quick-witted. She's very calculated. She can see through the bullshit. She can get a little cold because she's She's logic and intellect incarnate. But how is that the Tyrant? This could be, it could be a person. The Queen of Swords, because she can be cold and calculated, it could be like a really, I don't know if domineering is the right word, but like a very dominating person. Or someone trying to dominate you or manipulate you. Interesting. I think that stands by itself. I don't know that I want to pull more cards on that. Because sometimes, as I pull more cards in the other positions in the spread, that one will become clear. So the second one is the Spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? The Sun, which is the Leo card. And I really feel like that's about being yourself. You know, either the dream is to be yourself or the truth of who you are refuses to be silenced. The Sun card has always been my favorite. I don't know if it's just because I'm a Leo or I like what it represents, but it's just like this abundance of warmth and joy and light, and it's great. It's wonderful. Okay, so the third one is the Uprising. What action must you take to claim your personal freedom? Okay. 3 of Coins. I don't necessarily think this is about physical work. I know it's like a tangible like action step towards claiming your personal freedom, but I think this is more like internal work, like working on yourself. Maybe like working on finding your true self, or you know, maybe you've already found it, but you're working on expressing your true self. You know, with coins being physical, tangible, material, the physical realm, it could be taking that truth of who you are and finally expressing it, speaking it, acting it. And then the fourth one is the Fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? What is the fallout in Leo's life? What is the fallout for my Leos right now? Five of Wands. This is conflict, it's fighting, it's challenge, tension. This could be internal and it could be external. But whether it's internal or external, it's a fight, it's competition, it's conflict. Everybody be fighting. Maybe everybody's fighting around you. And you're like, why can't we just love each other? That is very Sun in Leo. Why can't we just love each other? Unless it's the Shadow Leo. So the Shadow Leo is more like, why can't you just all love me? And I know because I've been there. But once you kind of work on that and healing that and getting to like this healthy Leo energy, it's, why can't we all just love each other? And then the fifth one is the New World. This is what becomes possible when you live as your whole true self. And that really fits for Leo, because you're learning to be your whole free self and express that. So this has been happening with like every reading. It comes out the deck like this on the table, and I go to pick it up and there's a card underneath. So I thought it was one card. It's actually two. Might be something hidden. The first one on top was the Seven of Cups, which the Seven of Cups is like an overwhelming amount of choices or options or opportunities. So it's almost like this whole realm of possibilities opens up. That's nice. And then the Eight of Swords. I feel like some people read reversals. I don't read reversals, but I think this is more like either the opposite of this or what happens after, because the Eight of Swords is about being trapped and almost like paralyzed with fear and not being able to get out of this situation or even make any sort of move, because like in the picture, if she moves, she's gonna get poked, she gonna get stabbed. It's what I always call either analysis paralysis or just like a spiritual paralysis. It happens. It might be that like when you start showing up as your true self, you move out of this paralysis and start actually honing in on like what you want, what you desire, how maybe how you want to express yourself, how you want to be, how you want to act. And then you're able to make a move. You're not sitting here looking at the choices and feeling like you can't make a move. When you stand up as your authentic self, not everybody's gonna like it. You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, for one. And for two, when you own a piece of yourself, the others who have not owned that within themselves can get triggered. Because I was drawn back to this Five of Wands, this fighting energy, and that came out for the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? And I feel like this is the risk. When you stand up as your whole true authentic self, it can trigger people, and they're gonna want to fight you. Don't let them. Send them on their way with love. Go away. Go away. Okay, let's get an animal out on the table. So, one thing that was still kind of not confusing, but still uncertain is that Queen of Swords as the tyrant. And with everything else out on the table, like I said, it does make a little bit more sense where it's like, you know, swords are air energy. It's very intellectual, like headspace. But Leos operate from the heart. All about the heart. We wear our heart on our sleeves. So you might have had either a person or an internal belief that said that, you know, you have to operate out of that headspace, but your instinct is to operate out of the heart. Do it. What advice do you have for Leo regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Leo regarding this spread? Owl. You see clearly now. You know, you see clearly on how you want to operate and what's meant for you and what's not meant for you. What's your shit and what's not your shit. Love that. All right, Leo. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel to grow and reach more people. And I hope this reading was either clarifying or had a bit of confirmation for you. Aries. We're doing Aries now. Okay, so if you did not watch the intros and updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called The Dreamer's Rebellion, and I will explain the positions as I go. So, the first position is the Tyrant. What external or internal force has kept you small or silent? So who or what is the tyrant in Aries' lives? What is the tyrant that has kept Aries small and silent? Page of Cups. Interesting. Pages are usually like messengers. If you think back to medieval times, they were usually children, because, you know, children haven't experienced a lot, so they're still pretty new, not unintelligent, but they still have a lot to learn. And so that was one thing that children could do, was be messengers. So being that kind of page and still having a lot to learn within Cups, which is emotions and intuition. How's that the tyrant? Tell me more about the Page of Cups. Why is the Page of Cups here as the tyrant? Okay. The Emperor. The Emperor is like, it could be entrepreneurship, but it's also your relationship to authority. This could be an authority figure who has made your emotions feel unsafe, so you've always bottled them up and squashed them down, which has kept your emotions small and silent, or big and silent. So the next one is the spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? What is the spark in Aries' lives? Queen of Cups. This is queens are water energy and cups are water energy, so it's double water. And the queens in the suits are very receptive. So with being, in cups, being emotions and intuition, this is very much like receiving those messages and downloads and insights. And the thing I always get with the Queen of Cups is she really knows how to swim and flow within the different currents of life. But with the Tyrant, I almost want to say it's more to do with the emotional aspect of the cups. So, she's really able to swim within that wide range of emotion. You might be so, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is when we shift out of childhood into adulthood and we're no longer ruled by other people, by our parents, and it's no longer, I want to say it's no longer acceptable to use childhood and parents as an excuse for behavior, because we're all adults now. We're out of that childhood. We're not being parented and taught in that way. When we become adults and stand in our own self, we basically become our own parent, and you have to reparent that. And so you might be, now that you're out of that parental childhood aspect, you could be dabbling in working that emotional intelligence, because it is very much it's a muscle that needs to be worked. It's not something that just like you wake up one day and it's like, oh, I know exactly what my emotions are and where they come from and how to navigate them. It's a skill. It's a skill that needs to be learned and exercised and practiced. So I almost want to say that dream or that truth that refuses to be silenced is that journey in connecting with your emotions again and expressing them in a healthy way, and acknowledging that the entire variety and spectrum of emotions plays a part. They're all important. So then the third one is the uprising. What action must you take to claim your personal freedom? Nine of Wands. You gotta get back up. You gotta get back up. The Nine of Wands to me is like, when I was first sitting with this card, I had said that this guy looks like he's praying, but it's a sort of prayer in a way that's like falling to your knees desperately. You know, life is beating you down. And the way I see it is like all of these burnt out lights are all tasks or endeavors or adventures that you've been on that have either failed or didn't live up to your expectations, and there's this one last task that is being asked of you, and it's almost like Spirit saying one more time. Just get up and try one more time. Just try one more time. There's I cannot remember her name, but there is a gal on TikTok who, she's an advocate for mental health, and she shares this experience, this time when she was, you know, really down low in the mental dumps, and she had called EMS because she didn't feel safe, she didn't trust herself, and they had calmed her down. And she said the one thing that really stuck with her was one of the EMTs said, you know, she said, I don't want to do this anymore. And the EMT said, I know, just try one more time. One more time. And so that's been her like motto, her phrase in life that she uses is one more time. And that's always what I get with this card. That's always what I hear. One more time. So the fourth one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? The King of Coins is the only one that fell out upright, so I'm going to keep that one. And the King of Coins is very, you know, kings are air energy, very logical, very communicative. But the coins is very physical, tangible, money values. And I've always seen this card in this deck as just being very, he's almost like a master financer. But he's very practical. I'll never know why it won't focus, but regardless. You know, the kings and the queens have this air of sovereignty about them. You know, they're monarchy, they're royalty, they're rulers. And so the kings were always the lawmakers and the decision makers. And the king of coins being, you know, a master financer and being very practical, almost approaches those decision making with in a very grounded way. It's very logical, but it's also like it's tangible, but I don't mean in a physical tangible way. I just mean like it's accessible. He is accessible. The advice he gives or the laws he makes is very, like, it makes sense. If he were to give you advice, it would be something that is absolutely within your reach. So how is that what you need to release or risk? Tell me more about the King of Coins as the fallout. Tell me more about the King of Coins as the fallout. It was way too many. I just need one more. Why is the King of Coins here as the fallout? That was like 8 cards. That was like half the deck. Why is the King of Coins here? Because I don't know, well, it might be for some of you, you know, risking your finances that you've built steadily. But I don't understand why the rest would be very emotional, internal, spiritual. And then you gotta risk the physical? But the Ace of Swords. Aces are either like the start of the suit, something new within that suit, or it's the essence of that suit. And swords are logic and communication. So you've got the King, which is air energy, with the swords, which is air energy. Interesting. Maybe let's pull the New World and maybe that'll tie it all together. Because yeah, it's very odd that like the rest of this spread is, because like especially with the Nine of Wands, I know Wands is very fire, it's passion, ambition, will, spirituality. But what I get with the card being one more time, and that coming from a person who advocates for mental health, it ties in with all of this like emotional intelligence and emotional sovereignty, or just really tapping into that emotional space. But then you get over to the fallout. If it does have to do with finances, it could be when we ask for something from God, Spirit, the Creator, the universe, we don't just wake up one day with that fully realized and embodied within ourselves. We usually go through trials and challenges that cultivate that aspect that we're calling in. So if you're calling in finances, you're going to be put in situations that highlight the fears that you still have around money. I can see that with even with the Ace of Swords as well, because you know, with the swords being the intellect, it's not just communication, it's not just, you know, logic, it's also mindsets. So with everything else being about emotional intelligence, when you are calling in emotional intelligence, you're either going to have people or situations, encounters that challenge that emotional intelligence and safety and security. I think that's what it is. You have to be willing to risk your security in order to really get rooted in your security, so that no matter what happens externally, you still have that sense of self, of peace, your inner bubble. So then the new world, what becomes possible when you live as your whole free self, as this emotional, intelligent being. The Ten of Cups. Which is interesting because we're talking about all of this emotion and mental health, and the 10 is the completion of the suit. Like, because the court cards, like, yeah, you have the king, which is the full embodiment of that suit, but these are more, I would say the court cards are more, they can be situational, but they more represent the energy of a person. With the minor arcana, the ace through the 10, these are more situational. And so the 10 of Cups being the completion of, you know, this emotion and intuition aspect of your life, the 10 of Cups speaks towards abundance within that. It's the full realization and embodiment of, well, and especially with this being about emotional intelligence, this is the full realization of that emotional intelligence. It's putting it into practice, and like I said, finding that inner peace and able to see the abundance within your life, being content within your life. Yeah, like I said, like once your sense of self and security is challenged, and you know, you go through that trial, what happens is you're strengthening that muscle, that skill. And so it's creating that inner bubble of security and safety. I like that. Especially for Aries. Because most Aries I know love you guys, but y'all have a hot head. I've always said for Aries, like, it can go one of two ways. Aries has a lot of fire. I mean, Leo has a lot of fire too. But with Aries fire, because it's so, you know, it's the ram, there's a lot of force behind it. And Aries can wield their fire in one of two ways. They can either be very, very warm and cuddly and fuzzy. You know, they can use their fire for warmth. Or they can burn your fucking house to the ground. It's all in how, like, part of it is how an individual Aries chooses to wield that fire, and the other aspect is how you choose to approach an Aries. Okay. What advice do you have for Aries regarding this spread? That is like way too many. It's like, what, 5? I just want one. Koala spirit. Spirit has a plan. It might be why Spirit's saying, just get up one more time. Just try one more time. Because they have a plan. You are calling something in, whether it be emotional intelligence or, however that resonates for you. It's going to be challenged. Your sense of security is going to be challenged. But Spirit has a plan. You're calling that in, and they have advised a plan, or they have constructed a plan to gift you with that. But it's going to take, like I said, we don't just wake up and it's like if you ask for patience, God, universe, spirit, they're not going to hand you what you want when you want it. It's that challenge of learning to wait patiently. Learning to be in the now. And that could even go with like emotional intelligence that happens when you shift from blaming everything on your childhood to reparenting yourself. I don't remember where I was going with that. It must be all that needed to be said. Take it and run with it. Okay, Aries. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really does. It helps the channel to grow. It helps it reach more people. Helps me feel better about myself. But yes, if you missed the intros and updates, go ahead and watch that. If you're local, find out what's coming up. Yeah, I hope that was either clarifying or some confirmation for you. And hope to see you next week. Okay, we're gonna go with Sagittarius now. Almost burnt my little fingers. Okay. So, if you missed the intros and updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called The Dreamer's Rebellion. And I will explain the positions as I go. Okay. So the first one is the Tyrant. What external or internal force has kept you small or silent? So who or what is the Tyrant in Sagittarius lives? What be the Tyrant for Saggies? The Magician. Interesting. The Magician, the master alchemist, able to either make something out of nothing or mix elements to make something new. The Magician always also says you have everything you need. You already have everything you need. The aspect that might be the tyrant, because the tyrant position is either the system, belief, person, or fear that has kept you small or silent. So it might be a belief that in order to start something or be something, you have to have all these special tools. Like, for example, to put it in perspective, being a social media influencer or just posting on social media a lot. You know, you might have this belief that you need this tripod, and you need this light, and you need a microphone, and you need this, and you need that, and you need a good camera, and you need this, and you need that. But the thing is you can work up to that. You can build to that. You have everything you need right now to get started. You just have to start. So that's what's keeping you held back. The next one is the spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silent? What is the spark in Sagi's life? Eep. I can feel that, like, because, you know, Sagis are very, they want to expand. But it's like this belief that you need special tools is holding you back, and it's causing a lot of internal tension and conflict. And it feels icky. So the spark, the dream or the truth, is the Knight of Swords. Which the Knight of Swords, knights are fire energy and swords are air energy. So, you know, the knights of each suit are, you know, they've upgraded from the page. They know a lot more, and they're confident in the knowledge that they've learned. You know, especially within swords being intellect and thinking in the mind. They're confident in what they know. But the Knight of Swords specifically gets a bad rep for being too rash, too harsh, too impulsive. Almost like that, like saying whatever comes to mind and not really thinking about how it's going to land and how it might possibly hurt somebody. How is that a dream or a truth? Tell me more about the Knight of Swords. The Devil. The Devil is a self-made prison. It's something that you absolutely have the key to get out of a shitty situation of misery, and you haven't used it yet. That, or you don't see it. So it seems like somebody else is keeping you trapped in prison, but really it's just yourself. Honestly, I'm not really feeling the traditional meaning of the Knight of Swords for you. Because with the Devil being a self-made prison and the Tyrant over here being the Magician, and kind of that aspect of thinking that you need all of these different tools and circumstances to start something. I almost get the imagery more on this card with the the swirl and tornado and chaos that's happening there. You know, I feel like it's like this tornado of self-limiting thoughts and beliefs. You know, normally with this position, you know, the dream or the truth inside you that refuses to be silenced is usually like the thing that's too sacred to be abandoned. But with this one for you, I'm thinking that this is a lie that is hard to silence for yourself. Like, you want to be free of that. You know, the other aspect of it, with the Knight of Swords being a master strategist, you know, the dream or the truth might be planning strategically to get yourself out of these limiting beliefs. So the third one is the uprising. What action must you take to claim your personal freedom? What? Oh, 5 of coins. Homie, what's going on? What's going on? How is that the action you need to take? I mean, the 5s in any suit is conflict and challenge and hardship. Within coins, it's financial, it's physical realm. It's poverty. Needing to rely on other people to survive because you don't have that yourself. How is that the action you've got to take to claim your personal freedom? Tell me more about the 5 of coins. What the hell is going on? Look at the 5 of cups. My goodness, Saggies. This is like, so she's got all these, you know, broken pieces. And I've always seen this as like the broken pieces of herself and like her emotions. And she is holding on to what is left for dear life. This is insane. The 5 of coins and the 5 of cups. I'm going to move on to the next position, and I'm hoping the next two will kind of round that out, because are you needing to go broke to learn your lesson? That might be it. I don't know that this is a physical action. I think this is just something you've got to go through in order to learn and exit these limiting beliefs. You know, when you have absolutely nothing, both physically and emotionally, when your cup is empty, your pocketbook is empty, that's when we really start to create. That's when we learn how to create something out of nothing. I don't know why this came up, but it's where a lot of bomb food recipes came about during the Great Depression, because they had absolutely nothing. So they made do with what they had. And not all of it was great, but there are some recipes that came out of that time that were banging. It's almost like when I was growing up, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so we ate potatoes a lot. And we had gravy and mashed potatoes and toast a lot. And it might have been because we were poor, but that shit was banging. I love gravies and potatoes. So, that was the uprising. I'm thrown off now. The fourth one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? Kind of seems like the 5 should have been there, but we're not going to question spirit. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? What is the fallout for the Sagittarius? Okay, 9 of Wands. You might have to risk a little bit of defeat. Because the 9 of Wands to me is like he's down on his knees praying desperately. He has tried and tried and tried. That's like what I see these, like all these burnt out lights as. Like he's tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And if you watched Aries, I always hear with this card the gal on TikTok who she advocates for mental health, and she had called the EMTs because she didn't feel safe with herself. And she shared that she told the EMT, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, just one more time. Just get up and try one more time. And that's what I get with this card. You know, he's got one more task that's being asked of him, or adventure that's being asked of him. And it says, just get up and try one more time. But that's kind of, you know, in that moment you have what comes after that moment and what came before that moment as you're in that moment. And so with this card in this position of the spread of what you must be willing to release or risk in order to rise, I feel like the risk here is risking defeat. Risking that emotional and physical poverty so that you can learn how to create something out of nothing. And learn that you already have everything you need to create. I like that. Ooh. The 5th one is the New World. What becomes possible when you live as your whole free self? What does the new world look like for Saggies? What are the possibilities that are opening up? Yep. What does the new world look like for the Saggies? Yeah. Goodness. Seems a little chaotic. What does the new world look like? Judgment. This, I can't ever remember the word that it uses in the book description of this card, but basically what it boils down to is forgiveness, self-forgiveness. I think what's going to happen is, like with this, especially with the devil here, I think you're going to realize how your own mindset and beliefs have held you back. And that might come with some big feelings. That might come with, why did I do that? So what becomes possible when you live as your whole true free self is forgiveness for that. Self-forgiveness for not seeing what you know now. Which is very nice. Love that. So we're going to go ahead and get some animals on the cards for you. Animals on the cards. Animals on the table. Okay, what advice do you have for Saggies regarding this spread? Whoa. I only need one. What advice do you have for Saggies regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Saggies? These ones are a little hard to shuffle because they're so big. My hands are so little. So we got Koala Spirit. Spirit has a plan. And then we have Chameleon Spirit. Act as if. So when we're talking in the context of wanting to create, but thinking you need all of these tools and circumstances to create, and then hitting an emotional and physical poverty to learn that you can create something out of nothing, you kind of have to, especially when it comes to like financial security, act as if. Act as if you're already wealthy. Act as if you're already, back to the social media influencer example, act as if you're already posting viral content and you already have millions of followers. Act as if. That's what I'm doing. I mean that's a perfect example. I only have eight subscribers, but I'm still reading in a way and like talking as if I have an entire flock, because that's what I want. So that's how I'm going to act, as if I have this entire flock. Because honestly, like, yeah, I do date my readings in the titles. However, readings are timeless. So even if you're watching this like years down the road, it could still resonate. There could still be something in this reading for you. So even though I only have 8 subscribers at this moment, I'm still acting as if I have all the subscribers that I want. And so that's kind of how you have to operate when you're calling something in. You know, when you want to create and you're stuck in this limiting belief that you need all of these tools and circumstances, and you're wanting to lift the veil of those limiting beliefs, you have to act as if you're already out of them. Which is easier said than done. I know this, but Spirit has a plan. So just trust the process. Trust the process. Okay. I hope that reading was clarifying or confirmation. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does truly help the channel to grow and reach more people. Okay, let's see. Let's do Libra next. Moving into the air sign. All right, Libra. If you missed the intros and updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called the Dreamer's Rebellion spread, and I will explain the positions as I go. So the first one is the Tyrant. The Tyrant is what external or internal force has kept you small or silent. This could be a system, a person, a belief, a fear. Anything that's acted as a ruler over you. So who or what is the tyrant in Libra's life? Who or what is the tyrant for Libras? Interesting. Temperance, which is usually about counterbalance. If you think of a sword being tempered, it gets extremely hot and then it gets, dipped into cold water. So extreme hot, extreme cold. It's counterbalance. But like this card always has it has the element of air, fire, water, and earth. So it's like almost a balance within the elements. How is that a tyrant? Tell me more about temperance. Why is temperance here as a tyrant? Why is temperance here? Oh my lord. Oh my lord, oh my lord. Okay, King of Coins. King of Coins is a master financer. He's practical. He's got his shit together. Temperance with King of Coins. I feel like this is a system. Possibly in the economy. We won't go there, but it is a hard system, and I don't know, with temperance being counterbalance. It's almost like you're silently trying to counteract this, we'll say, corrupt system. Okay. What about the spark? The second one is the spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? What is the spark for Libras? There we go. Seven of Swords. This is... It's, you know, he's a thief. He's a manipulator. He's stealing what is not his. But he's already got swords on his back, so he's not stealing it because he needs it. He's stealing it because he wants it. You know, it was confusing when this came out. But I'm almost getting a little bit of Robin Hood energy. You're not stealing because you need it. You're stealing because, like, it's for a good cause. Who are you stealing from? What are you stealing? That's weird. It's weird. Okay. Didn't even ask. The third card is the uprising. What action must you take in order to claim your personal freedom? So what is the uprising for Libras? You know, the other thing with temperance, with that sense of balance, Libras are all about balance. Their literal archetype is the scale. And so I feel like, you know, with this corrupt system, there's like a heavy leaning towards one extreme, and it's like it's almost driving you nuts because Libra likes balance. It's driving you nuts. What is the uprising for Libra? What action must Libra take to claim their personal freedom? That's way too many. What is the uprising for Libras? What is the uprising, the action for Libra? I always like to wait until one pops out, and sometimes that does take a while, but I don't like to just choose one randomly. I like to let it pop out. And then we got the Lovers, which it could be about a relationship, but most of the time the Lovers more points towards a commitment or a choice that you're making that's more aligned with your soul. Which, yeah, that goes along with this whole Robin Hood energy of like stealing from the rich to give to the poor. You know, it might not be necessarily about money, but like there's this this sense of corruption within a system, and it doesn't have to be macro, grandiose. It doesn't have to be about our system as a nation. It can be about, the micro, the individual level, but making a decision that's more aligned with your soul. For example, I actually left a job one time because, and it took me a really long time to actually leave that job, because of course you want something to go to if you're leaving something. You don't want to just like be jobless. Maybe you do, I don't know. But I ended up leaving that job because it was just very manipulative. It was very sales oriented, and this like sales process is to almost trick people's mind with psychology to say yes to this sale. I don't know, in my opinion, it completely takes away people's autonomy and freedom and their sense of willpower. I don't know. It feels icky to me, because I always think of it on the receiving end of that. You're pressuring me and pushing me into buying this. Like, obviously everybody has free will and everybody can set that boundary, and like, yes, of course, me in that situation, it's very no. And I'm very firm on that no. However, I don't like that that's the tactic to get people to buy it. I would rather inspire people than to manipulate them by saying, like, you need this. Not the move. So I see this, the lovers being, a choice, a commitment that is more aligned with your soul. I see it being kind of that, like leaving something and like making a choice to change because something is just, it's not sitting right with you. I like this. So the next one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? The Empress. The Empress is like the divine feminine. She brings life into the world. Mother Earth, if you will. The mother. I don't know. I'm weird. Don't mind me. Anyways, how is that something you need to release or risk? Tell me more about the Empress. Why is the Empress here as the fallout? Why is the Empress here as the fallout? Why is the Empress here as the fallout? Why is the Empress here as the fallout for Libras? Why is the Empress here as the fallout? We've got the Three of Cups, which is like, if you've ever seen Soul, on Disney Plus. It's like getting in the zone. If you have not seen Soul, it's like, you know, when you're like either creating something or you're in the midst of a passion and you get like in this creative flow, this zone, and you get so like focused on it that like the rest of the world tends to fall away. That's the Three of Cups. Then we have the High Priestess, which is counterpart to the High Priest, the Hierophant. And this is being really in tune. I'm trying to see if I can make it easier to see. Yeah, I don't know. Being in tune with your intuition. Being in communication with spirit and being able to guide people and lead them on their way or on their path. I almost see it as like, I had this thought yesterday of being like either like an animal encounter interpreter or like a spiritual interpreter. And that comes with like having knowledge on what one single thing can symbolize, like, you know, what one animal, all the different symbolism that comes with that one animal. Because like she's holding a scroll and a pomegranate, and the pomegranate really drew me in because, well, and even the owl up there, you know, it really draws me in because there's so much symbolism around pomegranates and even owls. And there's a pentagram like in the back there. I wish it would focus. I don't know. But there's a pentagram back there, and even the pentagram. Or, you know, there's a moon up here. Even the moon. Like, there's just so much symbolism there. And the High Priestess is really good at taking that symbolism, those encounters, and interpreting them. And finding the deeper meaning within them. So we've got the Empress, the Three of Cups, and the High Priestess. I almost want to say that until you make that decision to extricate yourself out of this situation that is not in alignment with yourself, that's, you know, that's driving you nuts, until you get there, until you make that decision, you're going to have to risk everything that is in alignment with yourself. This sense of creation and the creative flow and the deeper spiritual meaning, really being like in tune with the earth and with like the currents of life. You could be a really spiritual person, which wouldn't surprise me if you're here. But until you make that choice to get in alignment with yourself, you're going to have to risk being out of touch with what is in alignment with your soul. But only until you make that choice. Because right now, it's almost like you're still in this Temperance, King of Cups as the tyrant energy of like this system being out of balance. This Robin Hood energy. Anyways, the 5th position is the New World. And this is what becomes possible when you live as your whole free self. This is the vision on the other side of the revolution. Oh my lord. That's a lot. That's a lot. Lots of things coming. Okay. Yeah, lots of things coming. 6 of Wands. 6 of Wands is like, the war isn't over yet, but you've won the battle. This is it's victory, it's triumph, it's, if you think of it in terms of like sequence of the suit of Wands, the 5 of Wands is conflict, challenge. I almost see it as like self-doubt. And then the 6 of Wands is like this moment of clarity from that doubt. And then once you get that clarity and you're solid within yourself, then the 7 of Wands comes along and everybody is there to question that, to see if you can really remain in that. But the 6 of Wands is like that moment of clarity, of victory. So once you make that choice, all of this spiritual alignment will come into play, and you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. When you make that choice and you get in alignment with what you believe and what you value, then you have this sense of victory and triumph and abundance, which is awesome. Yes, love that. Okay, let's go ahead and, speaking of interpreting animals, let's get some animals on the table for you. Okay, what advice do you have for Libras? Wombat spirit, be at home. I almost see that home as like coming back to yourself, coming back into alignment with yourself, to be at home. I like that. That's wonderful. Okay, Libras, I hope that was either clarifying or confirmation for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow and reach more people, other people. And we are going to go ahead and jump into Gemini. My Palo Santo is getting very, very small. I'm almost out. I don't like that. Okay. Gemini. If you missed the intro and updates, this is a spread I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called the Dreamers Rebellion. And I will explain the positions as I go. So the first one is the Tyrant. It is what external or internal force has kept you small or silent? Okay. Who or what is the Tyrant in Gemini's life? So we got the Six of Swords, which is interesting because sixes are usually like restoring balance, restoring harmony after the five, which is, fives are conflict, challenge, tension. The six is restoring that harmony. So within swords being the mind and thinking and intellect and logic, it's almost like this internal journey that we take to leave our troubles behind towards a brighter future. It's almost what's interesting is like there's this guy at the back, like he's right here. So there's that guy in the back, and he almost looks like the Hermit in this deck because it is kind of giving hermity energy. And I almost want to say that like within this Hermit energy, this Six of Swords, this this journey, or this this isolation to leave your troubles behind, it's almost like you're still like hyper fixated and focused on those troubles, and it's keeping you small, it's keeping you held back. So I think this is a thought pattern, a thought process, a mindset that is holding you back. So the second one is the Spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? And Ten of Wands. What? The Ten of Wands is like carrying the weight of the world on your back with no help. It's burden. It's soul deep exhaustion. You're wanting out of that. You want to move out of that. And the 10 is a completion, so it's like the end of that suffering. However, it almost seems like you're still in that, but you're wanting out. I don't think that it's you wanting to give up, because the Ten of Wands, like, he might be carrying the weight of the world, but he's still going. He's still crawling. So I don't think you're wanting to give up. You want that burden to ease a little bit, lessen a little bit. Yeah, you're wanting a little bit more ease and peace. So the third one is the Uprising. What action must you take to claim your personal freedom? Four of Coins. Normally, the fours are a sense of stability. So within coins, it can be financial security. But the way he's holding on to these and like clutching them, this card is always like given me kind of this defensive energy, like don't touch my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. In being in that hermit energy, but it's physical, because I almost want to think like you gotta protect your energy. So it might be setting boundaries. Okay, this might be a little bit of people-pleasing energy and taking on other people's burdens because they don't want to deal with it themselves, and not being able to say no to people. So with this being in coins, which is the physical, tangible reality, and the Four is stability, but like I said, I've always gotten a defensive energy with this card. So you might have to learn how to say no. And then the fourth one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? Okay, Six of Cups. Traditionally speaking, the Six of Cups has always been about childhood and nostalgia. But this card really, I just gotta chill. This card at first, when I was first reading, never made sense to me, because the sixes is about restoring balance. And if we're restoring balance to, the cups, the emotion, the intuition, it didn't make sense, because the Five of Cups is like being emotionally drained and emotional conflict, emotional challenges. So with the six restoring that, why are we thinking about the past? Why are we thinking about childhood and getting nostalgic? But then, as you think about it, when you kind of get into that hermity space of isolation and reflection and introspection, that is kind of what you do. Like when you're on the verge of a breakthrough, that is kind of what you do. You kind of think back on the past to get kind of a big picture of what you're needing to learn, or what have you. And then we have the World, which the World is it's the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It's the culmination of the entire story. Actually, normally to me this is about, the end of one chapter, the start of a new, but it can also fit in the concept of the end of one book and then into the new book. I don't know how many bookworms I got out there, but it's almost like when you finish a book and it ends on a cliffhanger, but the next book isn't out yet. They're still writing it. The suspense. So we have an end and a beginning with sort of this emotional healing process. Like I said, we go through that process of thinking back on the past to get this big picture. And then that tends to lead to a breakthrough, a aha moment. And with learning to say no, it's almost like this thinking process that you're going through, it's creating an entire like mindset shift, and it's going to completely change your world. However, this is the fallout. This is what you're needing to release or risk. When you do learn to say no, the old people pleaser in you is going to get very triggered. It's going to not like what is happening because it was never safe to say no. So that when you do start saying no, you're like, your body goes into like alarm mode, like, what is happening? This isn't safe. And I think that's what needs to be released, is that old version of you that is carrying all the burdens. Let go of that shit. Okay, so the 5th one is the New World. Oh my lord. The New World is what becomes possible when you live as your whole free self. Okay, there's a lot of possibilities, but I only want one card. What does the New World look like for Gemini? Okay, that's 2 cards. I can handle 2 cards. So 7 of Coins. This is like when you plant something and it's growing. It gets to a point where it's like it's almost ready to harvest, but you've tended to it, and it is almost ready to harvest. It's not quite there yet, but it's this moment of all there is left to do is wait. You can stand there and enjoy your hard work, but it's still a process of waiting. And then the Ace of Swords, aces are either the start of something new within that suit, or it's the essence of that suit, the embodiment of that suit. Which Swords is the mind, the intellect, which makes sense. We have, this mindset shift. Well, it's a mindset shift that's looks like it's changing everything. It's changing your internal world, your physical world. I think it's already shifting, and all there is left to do is wait. Oh, that's it. Thank you. So with this energy of all there is left to do is wait, there's a lot of ease in that. There's nothing to do. The work is not, you've already put in the work to grow these things. Whether it be finances, values, foundations, patience, anything within the physical realm, you've already put in the work to grow everything. It's now a moment of waiting to collect and harvest the fruits of your labor. And so there's a lot of ease within that. And like I said, with this 10 of Wands being in the spark, the dream or the truth, you're wanting to put down those burdens and have a little bit more ease in your life. And I feel like that 7 of Coins is really pointing towards that ease in your life. Although I don't think it's coming right away, because like I said, when you stop like people pleasing and doing things for other people, it get chaotic, but it will eventually lead to a sense of peace and ease. Okay, Let's get some animals on the table for you. What advice do you have for Gemini regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Gemini regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Gemini regarding this spread? What advice do you have for Gemini regarding this spread? Holy crap. Oh my gosh. I shit you not. I cannot make this a... Armadillo spirit. Set healthy boundaries. Set them boundaries. I love that. I love that. Own that. Anyways, Gemini, I hope that was either clarifying or gratifying or some confirmation for you. If you missed the lives and updates and you're local, go ahead and check that out, see what's coming up for us. Yeah, that's all. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really does help the channel grow and to reach other people. And okay, Aquarius, let us cleanse your decks. My Palo Santo is getting like almost overused and very small and tiny, so it takes a while to get it to light. Worth it though. I wish you could smell through technology. It smells so good. Okay, Aquarius. If you missed the intros and updates, this is a spread that I created myself for the week of 4th of July. It is called The Dreamer's Rebellion. And I will explain each position as I go. So the first one is the Tyrant. This is the external or internal force that has kept you small or silent. This can either be a system, a belief, a person, a fear, whatever has acted as a ruler over you and held you back. Okay. Who or what is the tyrant in Aquarius's life? Whoa. Who or what is the tyrant in Aquarius's life? Jeez. So we have the Knight of Cups, which the Knights are fire, Cups are water. So we have this fire and water. And the Knights in each suit, they are confident. They have a lot more knowledge. They've graduated from the page. Sometimes they can be a little overconfident, a little bit of hubris. But within Cups, being emotion and intuition, it's like being so sure of your emotional intelligence. And sure, there's still more to learn. There's still, we're always learning. But this is being emotionally intelligent enough to lead from the heart. And then the Two of Wands, which I've always seen this as like almost indecision. Like twos are normally about like balance and duality, but like it can also, like the Two of Swords is usually a decision. But whereas the Two of Swords is like a decision that, you know, it's a difficult decision and you might be blinded towards certain aspects. This one, I feel like you have a choice between two boxes, right? And you have the key. And what I usually get with this is the key will open either box. You just have to choose what box. So Knight of Cups with the Two of Wands. The two boxes might be like two different ways of approaching something, of like handling the situation. Because like I said, with the Knights, they can get overconfident and a little bit of hubris. They can yes, the Knight of Cups leads from the heart, but it can also get kind of easy to get too wrapped up in emotions. Let's see if the other positions will kind of round that out. The second one is the Spark. What dream or truth inside you refuses to be silenced? What? Four of Cups. What? So the Four of Cups is usually like malcontent, it's boredom, it's apathy, it's dreaming of something better without realizing like what you already have. Almost like that concept of being grateful for what you already have. Interesting. Tell me more about the Four of Cups. Why is the Four of Cups here as the Spark? I'm gonna try to read that many cards. So we have Strength, which is like this inner sense of sovereignty. Okay. And then we have the Moon, which is like, in this deck, to me, it's making space for the dark and broken pieces of yourself, but it's also being comfortable in like the dark taboo stuff that people normally shy away from. And then the Ace of Coins, which aces are the start of something new in the suit or the essence of that suit. And it's interesting because we have a lack of air already. We have plenty of fire, plenty of freaking water, and a little bit of earth. But no air. No air. We've got boredom and apathy, inner sovereignty, being comfortable with the taboo and making space for the broken pieces, and something new within the physical realm. I'm gonna try to explain this in a way that's not all over the place. This could be so with this being a dream, like the Four of Cups does kind of point towards, obviously like dreaming of something more. And with the Ace of Cups being something new, I can almost see that as dreaming about something new within the physical realm. And with the Moon being kind of comfortable with the taboo, it could be a venture that some people might not be comfortable with. But the Strength has like this inner sovereignty of like doing it anyways, like doing what you want with bravery. Normally, we like to say, lead from the heart. I almost think leading from the heart for you, though, is leading to a lot of indecision. Because, like I said, you have these two boxes, and you're having to choose between them, and you already have the key to both of them, you just have to choose. But I think you're taking a look at both dreams, and both dreams make you feel a lot of emotions. And so you're gravitating towards both of them. You're trying to it feels like you're trying to call in something that is super complex and complicated. And maybe there's two ways to go about it, but you can't decide which route will be better. So the third card is the Uprising. What action must you take in order to claim your personal freedom? I'll take it. So the Seven of Swords is, he already has everything he needs, so he's not stealing out of necessity. He's stealing because he wants it. He wants to add to his collection. And then the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords talks about discomfort and loss and tension and heartache. And then we have the Empress. And she's, the divine feminine. She brings life into the world. She is the mother. What is the action there? It's almost like, with the Four of Cups, it's almost like you're dreaming of having that bravery and that comfortability to be in that taboo that other people shy away from or, kind of poo-poo. And it's almost like, with this thief energy, what I kind of got from it is it's like people treated you poorly within your beliefs and your endeavors, and you're almost like turning around and doing the same thing in a way that's like, well, how do you like it? But that's not you. And so it's creating a lot of like tension and heartache and discomfort. It's almost like that saying, hurt people hurt people. Like somebody hurt you, and so you're treating everybody else that way, because it's like, well, nobody cared when I was going through it, so why should I care if you're going through it? But the Empress, bringing that new life into the world, I almost want to say it's like, it's transmuting that pain. It's using that pain as fuel for growth. Fuel for growth to be able to stand in this new endeavor that is kind of taboo or poo-poo. Yeah, I feel like people have really given you a hard time over this, and you don't know how to approach it or handle it, and it's got a lot of emotion tied to it. You know, this thing that people are poo-pooing probably meant a lot to you. So the fourth one is the fallout. What must you be willing to release or risk in order to rise? Page of Coins. Pages are like, they're the messengers. They are kind of just starting their journey within the suit. It's a little bit different from the Ace of Coins in the sense that like the Ace is like more like situational, like the start of something new within the tangible world, but this is like, it's not like infant new. It's more pre-teen new. You know, it's the start of a new chapter, and learning how to navigate that. And with it being in coins, which is pentacles, and being the physical world and the tangible money values, Earth also speaks towards patience. The Page of Coins to me has always been someone who's willing to go through the long haul to learn what needs to be learned and go through that process of learning. Maybe it's either releasing the need to know everything, or it could be risking being seen as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. Someone who's being seen as someone who's not very knowledgeable. Yeah. Okay, yes. It's the maturity aspect. You might have to be, risk being seen as immature. Ooh, or you have to release that immaturity. Because like I said, it's almost like you're in this mode of like, well, how do you like it? It was done to me, so I can do it to you. Hurt people. But the Page of Coins, pages, they're immature, and not really by choice. It's just they haven't experienced the world yet. So you might need to release some of that immaturity and maybe grow up a little bit. I don't say that in a malicious way. I say it with love, but you might have to release some of that immaturity. Okay, so the 5th position is the New World. What becomes possible when you live as your whole free self? When you say to hell with other people and just go for it. Get your taboo on. Page of Wands. So Wands is like, represents fire and passion. And it's still a page. But instead of being like in the tangible physical world, it's within passion. This card does speak to a little bit of hubris, but I am not getting that with this position. I'm almost getting that, like, because, you know, like I said, you know, to hell with other people. Follow that dream. Even if it's taboo, follow it. And I think you're going to realize that your passions matter more to you, and cultivating that passion is more important to you than listening to other people and caring what they have to think. If you create the space, your people will show up. Okay, let's get an animal on the table for you. What advice? That was very quick. Giraffe spirit. See the big picture. See the big picture. You need to zoom out a little bit. Stop looking at this like one moment that happened and holding on to that pain. You have to see the big picture in how suffering always leads to growth. It always serves a purpose to bring us into something, whatever that new something is. Okay, I like that for you. A lot of growth happening. And I mean, of course, there's always free will. You don't have to grow or change, but I think you're ready for it. You're ready for it. Well, I hope that was clarifying or confirmation for you, Aquarius. And if this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you all have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week, a good 4th of July. And I'm gonna hop off and go have a good rest of my day. So, thank you for watching. Bye.